It is Friday, April 26th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And just like you, I've spent my ass, up to my ass in tether all day long. But nonetheless, I was still able to pull myself away from the desktop and get my ass kicked at jiu-jitsu today. And it was a very challenging get your ass kicked at jiu-jitsu Friday. I made good on my goal where I've been trying to really push my bounds as far as when I'm challenging somebody for sparring or something like that, where I've been specifically trying to pick people that are at least my skill level or higher. And today, I did that on 2 counts. And, you know, I got to say, it was aggravating in all of the ways that I've known it to be. But that's specifically why I did it. You know, it's like you don't get anywhere without challenging yourself. And so today was really about doing that. You know, it's like I was feeling really, really good. And, you know, I was trying to focus my mind on getting rid of my doubt. You know, I really thought about it. I'm like, man, I've been doing this shit for 2+ years now. There's no reason why I need to be looking at myself like I'm a complete noob in there anymore. And so that's the mindset I went with. You know, it's like usually I try to go in with a clean slate, no expectations and all that. But you know, I'm finding that without expectations, I'm not driving myself hard enough. And I'm feeling that I'm way more capable than I'm putting out right now. And the problem that I'm having is that I'm letting that doubt get in my head. You know, where the doubt's saying, oh, you know, just pick that white belt to roll with. You know, that's nice and safe, and you might actually get a sub. You know, whereas if I do what I did today, I didn't get any subs today. I came really close to getting submitted myself a couple times, and if the opponent that I ended the evening with had really wanted to, I don't think I could have stopped him from submitting me, because he's a black belt, number one. But that's beside the point. He's very, very skilled. You know, he could have been a white belt. If he had the same skill level, it didn't matter. He still would have been able to get me. But it was funny. I told him that to begin with. I'm like, I already know you're going to kick my ass, but I'm going to make you work for it. You know, I'm going to try and make you work for it. And that's pretty much what I tried to do. And there were a couple points where, you know, he had me, I knew he had me, and I needed to shift my position to where that wasn't the case anymore. But I needed him to move first, and it was kind of aggravating being in those positions where I knew for me to be able to do anything, he had to move further forward, and he was just taking his time. He's just like, yeah, I'm not in any big hurry. I got you. You're not going anywhere right now. just you know, go ahead and pop the umbrella, bust out the lunch. You know, you're going to be here for a little bit, and so rather than do what I normally do, which is I get aggressive and try and flex my way out of it, this time I would pay attention to where his hands were and try to estimate what his next movement was, and then try to negate it, you know, by either grabbing his gi lapel or his wrist or his ankle and trying to change the angle to where that was no longer possible. And that's really what it was, way more a chess match than me just playing slam checkers like I normally try and do. And so, you know, that's really where I've been trying to go with my jiu-jitsu, is taking it more to a discussion, then a debate, and then domination, rather than just simply a monologue and, you know, I'm trying to roll through you like a tank. I mean, because I know I'm fully capable of that. I've got strength, I've got body mass, but that's not going to get me very far. That's only going to get me as far as, my strength or my mass can. As soon as I'm against somebody who's stronger and bigger than I am and more skilled than I am, I'm fucked. And so, like I said, that is simply not enough for me. I need to be able to use my brain, time myself, and burst when it's necessary. Use strength when it's necessary. As opposed to, something just to get through the pass to the next move or something to that, like that effect. And so, I picked one of the biggest guys in the class, and I'll tell you what, he is not a pushover. I mean, this guy is so big that I have a real hard time getting a full guard on him. Getting my legs all the way wrapped around him. So yeah, not only that, this guy is deceptive as fuck. Okay, he doesn't look like he's all nimble or whatnot. He's got fucking agility, man, agility, and the only thing you need to do to find out about him is look him up. And I'm not gonna give you his name, so it's gonna be kind of hard. Anyway, he competed not too long ago, and he made it all the way to the ultimate and faced a black belt. And not only faced a black belt, stayed live with a black belt for about 3 or 4 minutes in an ultimate round. He'd been through like 4 other matches. So, this guy is not a pushover. And he took it easy too, but nonetheless, I was using more of my brain with him as opposed to brawn. And I did do a little brawn, but not as much as I typically do. The one thing that he had a lot of challenge with was getting out of my guard, because we were starting in guard. That gave me some hope that I was able to keep him in guard. I almost swept him once, but I did not manage it. And that was the other thing. My instructor, I really think that he was trying to give me the opportunity to bring it to the ground and just seeing how I would do it. And so I kind of got that idea about, I want to say 15-20 seconds into it, is that he was letting me push him around. He was letting me present the pressure. And I did manage to slip an underhook and get onto his side for one moment. But because I didn't pull him in, he was running away from me. And I let him bring it right back around the front. And then I kind of collapsed his one arm and grabbed behind his head. And I wanted to make it seem like I was going to just throw him to the ground. And so I kind of pulled him down a little bit below my head. I pulled his neck down below my head and kind of put just a little bit of pressure on him and pushed back into him, so he started stepping back. And as soon as he started stepping back, I leaned back and brought him forward and brought his head up over my shoulder and threw him right into my guard. That was the sneakiest fucking move I managed to pull on him the entire time. So I managed to pull him into my guard. And I didn't jump guard, but I did get a legitimate guard pull. If I were in a match with him and I'd managed to get that same move on him, it would have been considered a typical guard pull as opposed to a guard jump. But yeah, like I said, I kind of compressed him and pushed into him enough to get him to walk backwards. And as soon as he did, man, just pulled him right into me. So like I said, I got a sneaky move. But other than that, it was I don't know how to describe it. It's if you had a predator, like a lion or something like that, and you're a squirrel, and he's just batting you around between his paws and shit, and just fucking with you, and it's he's got his finger on you, and he's waving at people over there, and shit. That's kind of what it was like. And this guy is lighter than me. He's my height, and I got probably, I would think 30-40 pounds on him easy. And like I said, he was just as chill as could be. No big hurry. I know I can kill you. So yeah, it was a very, very humbling and challenging get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday, but that's the ones that make us better. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down into some music. And as far as where to go with the music, man, I'm feeling it. Bloodlust by Body Count. Let me go ahead and scroll on all the way up there. Where is it? Gotta go through that. There it is. Bloodlust. Where is it? Bloodlust. There. First Dance. Here on Coin Metal.
Since the beginning of time, humans have killed each other because they disagree.
I almost let it continue to just run there, but That's My Jam by Skindred. Anywho, yeah, let's dive into it, because, I mean, shit, we got a lot of shit to cover. I mean, like, a lot of shit to cover. I mean, so much shit that I'm not even sure where to start. I mean, I'm sure I'll wend my way through it at one point or another this evening and come to some sort of, like, consensus about what I think about it. Nonetheless, no thanks. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm just going to start with the first one, and we'll just roll with it from there. This one's on cryptocurrencynews.com. It was authored April 26th, so today, and this is by Carolyn Harris. So no penis. Here's what we know about the Bitfinex and Tether issue. Scrolling. On Thursday, April 25th, reports surfaced that the New York Attorney General's office is looking into Bitfinex. Specifically, NYAG Letitia James. Or Letitia? My apologies, ma'am. Letitia James said she had... Oh, come on. Where the hell did I put it? I had to increase it there. Letitia James said she had received a court order against Ifinex Inc., which is the company behind Bitfinex. The order told them to stop breaking New York law. Here's what we know. The Bitfinex and Tether issue, April 2019. According to reports, the New York Attorney General's office is looking into Ifinex. Why? Because the office alleges that Bitfinex lost more than $800 million. The crypto exchange then proceeded to use funds from Tether, a stablecoin operator who is also operated by Ifinex, to cover the shortfall. In the Thursday issued press release, the world was informed, and we're going to go ahead and right-click on that bad boy too. The world was informed that Bitfinex sent $850 million to Crypto Capital Corp. and that Ifinex, based on an investigation by Letitia James's department, has been found to having, quote, engaged in a cover-up to hide the apparent loss of $850 million of commingled client and corporate funds. Many are said to have been impacted by the Bitfinex and Tether issue. With that in mind, James says her department is doing everything in its power to stand up for those affected. Quote, "We will continue to stand up for investors," explained James, "and seek justice on their behalf when misled or cheated by any of these companies." It's important to note that under court order, the following are to cease loaning, accessing, or, according to CoinDesk, quote, "making any other claim to dollar reserves held by Tether, Ifinex's officers, agents, employees, contractors, directors, and assignees." But that's just because NYAG has taken charge does not mean Bitfinex is stepping aside. A press release on Thursday came out. Bitfinex issued a response. In the response, the crypto exchange said the New York Attorney General's court filings were written in bad faith. Bitfinex also said the filings were, quote, riddled with false assertions, including, as purported, $850 million loss at Crypto Capital. Quote, you can read the crypto exchange's full response on the Bitfinex and Tether issue here. And so let's go ahead and right-click on that. Let's see. Dude, there's not a single comment on this one. Can you believe that? Anyway, we got a couple tabs to follow up on that. This is by Letitia James. This is in the from the Attorney General's office, New York Attorney General's office. Attorney General James announces court order against cryptocurrency company under investigation for fraud. New York Attorney General Letitia James today announced that her office obtained a court order enjoining, and we're going to go ahead and right-click on that bad boy too, enjoining Ifinex Inc., operator of the Bitfinex virtual asset trading platform, and Tether Limited, issuer of the Tether virtual currency, and other related entities, from further violations of New York law in connection with ongoing activities that may have defrauded New York investors that trade in virtual or cryptocurrency. Our investigation, quote, our investigation has determined that the operators of the Bitfinex trading platform, who also control the Tether virtual currency, have engaged in a cover-up to hide the apparent loss of $850 million of commingled client and corporate funds, said Attorney General James. Quote, New York State has led the way in requiring virtual currency businesses to operate according to the law, and we will continue to stand up for investors and seek justice on their behalf when misled or cheated by any of these companies. In papers filed with the Manhattan Supreme Court, the office set forth certain findings of its ongoing investigation into Bitfinex and Tether. Today's court order requires that the operators of the companies immediately cease further dissipation of the U.S. dollar assets which back, quote, Tether tokens while the office's investigation continues, and produce documents and information including material called for by the office's previously issued investigative subpoenas. The companies are also barred from destroying, deleting, or permitting others to delete potentially relevant documents and communications, including documents and communications stored on any self-deleting or, quote, ephemeral computer applications. In September 2018, the Office of the Attorney General issued its Virtual Markets Integrity Initiative report, which set forth the findings by the office about the practices of, quote, virtual asset trading platforms that operate or were believed to operate in New York. Among the findings set forth in that report, the office highlighted the, quote, substantial potential for conflicts between the interests of the platform insiders, and platform customers. In November 2018, the Attorney General issued subpoenas to Bitfinex and Tether, which are owned and operated by the same small group of individuals and cannot do business in New York, and claimed not to do business in New York. As alleged in court papers filed by the Attorney General's office, the Bitfinex trading platform allows New Yorkers to purchase and trade virtual currencies, including the so-called Tether stablecoin, a virtual currency that companies long claimed was, quote, backed one-to-one by U.S. dollars held in cash reserve. The filings explain how Bitfinex no longer has access to over $850 million of commingled client and corporate funds that it handed over without any written contract or assurance to a Panamanian entity called, quote, Crypto Capital Corp., a loss Bitfinex never disclosed to investors. In order to fill the gap, executives of Bitfinex and Tether engaged in a series of conflicted corporate transactions whereby Bitfinex gave itself access to up to $900 million of Tether's cash reserves, which Tether for years repeatedly told investors fully backed the Tether virtual currency one-to-one. According to the filings, Bitfinex has already taken at least $700 million from Tether's reserves. Those transactions, which have also not been disclosed to investors, treat Tether's cash reserves as Bitfinex's corporate slush fund and are being used to hide Bitfinex's massive undisclosed losses and inability to handle customer withdrawals. The office's filings further detail how the companies obfuscated the extent and timing of these corporate transactions during the office's investigation. issued pursuant to the General Business Law Section 354, a provision of the New York's Martin Act that confers broad powers to the Attorney General to investigate and halt fraud in connection with securities or commodities. The court order bars the operations of Bitfinex from further draining the cash reserves of Tether or taking personal distributions or dividends from the reserves. The order also compels the companies to produce relevant documents and information which, to date, they have failed to produce to the Office of the Attorney General. A copy of the court order can be viewed here. Yeah, we might follow that up too. The Attorney General's Virtual Markets Integrity Initiative report provides information about virtual asset trading platforms and the risks to retail investors in these products. This investigation has been handled by Senior Enforcement Counsel John D. Castiglione and Assistant General Brian M. Whitehurst of the Investor Protection Bureau and Assistant Attorney General Joanna Szybczyk. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Of the Bureau of Internet and Technology, supervised by Chief Deputy Attorney General for Economic Justice Christopher D'Angelo, Investor Protection Bureau Chief Kevin Wallace, and Bureau of Internet and Technology Chief Kim Berger. Legal Assistant Charmaine Blake is assisting in the investigation, and Data Analyst William Greenlaw in the Research and Analytics Department, supervised by Director John Werberg. So yeah, we have that covered. And now let's get into this court order. Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of New York, in the matter of the inquiry by Letitia James, Attorney General of the State of New York, petitioner pursuant to Article 23A of the New York General Business Law in regard to the acts and practices of Ifinex Inc., BFXNA Inc., BFXWW Inc., Tether Holdings Limited, Tether Operations Limited, Tether Limited, Tether International Limited. Let's see. So respondents in promoting the issuance, distribution, exchange, advertisement, negotiation, purchase, investment advice, or sale of securities or commodities in or from New York State. Upon the application in writing of Letitia James, Attorney General of the State of New York, for an order pursuant to General Business Law, GBL 354, and upon reading and filing the what? The blah 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 of Brian M. Whitehurst, Assistant Attorney General, dated April 24, 2019, with Exhibits A through M thereto, and the accompanying memorandum of law dated April 24, 2019, it is being shown that whereas the Attorney General has determined to commence an action under Article 23A of the GBL against the above captioned respondents, Ifinex Inc., BFXNA Inc., BFXWW Inc., collectively Bitfinex, Tether Holdings Limited, Tether Operations Limited, Tether Limited, and Tether International Limited, collectively Tether, and together with Bitfinex. Respondents, and that the production of certain documents, books, and records is material and necessary to the action that the Attorney General has determined to bring, and whereas pursuant to GBL 354, it is this court's duty to grant the Attorney General's application for an order directing those mentioned in the application to produce such papers, documents, and books and records, and whereas pursuant to the GBL 354 and its it is expedient and proper to grant certain preliminary injunctive relief against respondents because alleged fraudulent practices of respondents threaten continued and immediate injury to the public, and that the potential dissipation of respondents' assets would render a judgment directing restitution or disgorgement ineffectual. It is hereby ordered that the respondents appear before the Honorable Steve Liebham. Dude, you really need to learn how to fucking write. Sorry, Liebham, I guess. Steve E. Liebham, special referee of the Supreme Court, or any other justice or referee of this court, as may be directed at Part 86 in Room 644 at the courthouse located at 60 Center Street, New York, New York, or at any other place as the court may direct, as follows: on the 3rd of May 2019, 10 a.m., and on any adjourned date and time thereafter, but not later than 30 days after the date of this order, to turn over originals, wherever located, whether in their possession, custody, or control, or if the originals are unavailable, copies of the following dated, unless otherwise specified, from January 1st, 2015 to present. 1. All documents and information requested in the subpoenas issued by the Attorney General to respondents dated November 27, 2018, and number 2, all documents and information required by the Attorney General in a letter to respondents dated February 26, 2019. 3. All documents concerning Bitfinex users, accounts, clients, or customers that reside or are believed to reside, do business, or are believed to do business in New York. 4. All documents concerning holders of Tether that reside or are believed to reside in New York. 5. All documents and communications concerning any business relationship with any New York-based or New York licensed company in whatever regard. 6. All documents and communications regarding any transaction of whatever nature to loan, extend credit, encumber, pledge, or make any other claim of any variety or description on the U.S. dollar reserves underlying tethers to Bitfinex or any other entity. 7. All documents and communications regarding any transaction of whatever nature to purchase, borrow, disperse, or loan tethers to or from third parties, including between Tether and Bitfinex, wherever located. 8. All documents evidencing all requests, orders, or demands for U.S. dollar withdrawals from the Bitfinex trading platform, including the amount requested, date and the request was received, date the request was fulfilled, date the request was canceled, and status of still pending request since January 2018. 9. All documents evidencing each order or request for purchase, issuance, or redemption of Tether since January 1st, 2017, and which include the date of the order/request, the date on which it was executed, the amount of Tether purchased /issued /redeemed, the name and wallet address of the purchasing/ordering/requesting person or entity, date any such purchase/order/request was canceled, and status of any still pending purchases/orders/requests. 10. A current accounting of all Bitfinex and Tether corporate banking, trading, and client accounts, including but not limited to those holding U.S. or foreign currency or virtual currency wherever located. 11. Identification of all New York and U.S. customers of Bitfinex whose funds were provided to Crypto Capital and the amount of any such outstanding funds. 12. Respondents' tax filings for the years 2017 and 2018. 13. A report no less often than weekly with supporting documents and communications evidencing any issuances or redemptions of tethers to or from Tether or Bitfinex, which shall include identification of the purchaser or redeemer of Tether, the amount of tethers purchased or redeemed, how long the purchase or redemption request took to fulfill, the wallet address the tethers were sent to / came from, and how the tethers were paid for / paid out. 14. Identification of all eligible contract participants controlled by U.S. persons trading past or present on the Bitfinex trading platform or invested in Tether. Yeah, that's probably me. 15. All documents and communications concerning any decision to permit any ECP to trade on the Bitfinex platform or to invest in Tether, including but not limited to all copies of any ECP certification and evidence provided to respondents by ECPs, and number 16, all other documents that may be requested by the Attorney General or a designated assistant during the course of this investigation. Ordered that all respondents, their directors, officers, principals, agents, employees, contractors, assignees, and all other persons acting or having acted in aid or furtherance of the same are hereby preliminarily restrained from violating Article 23A of the GBL and from engaging in fraudulent, deceptive, or illegal acts, and are further restrained and enjoined from employing any device, scheme, or artifice to defraud or to obtain money or property by means of false pretense, representation, or promise, including but not limited to, number 1, further action by Bitfinex or Tether to access, loan, extend credit, encumber, pledge, or make any other claim of any variety or description on the U.S. dollar reserves held by Tether. Number 2, making any distribution or dividend to any principal, executive, employee, agent, investor, or associate of Bitfinex and Tether from funds that have been loaned, extended, pledged, or otherwise taken from the U.S. dollar reserves held by Tether. And 3, directly or indirectly tampering with, mutilating, altering, erasing, removing, destroying, or otherwise altering or disposing of any and all books, records, documents, files, correspondence, assets, accounts, personal files, cassette tapes, or other recordings of any type, computers, computer or other disks, and hard drives, other types of tapes and document recordings, computer records, or videotapes of any type, however created, evidences of electronic transmissions or documents produced or stored, or other tangible items wherever located, including, but not limited to, places of business and home addresses, residences, and places of storage relating to any relevant or potentially relevant documents, communications, or information called for by the subpoenas dated November 27, 2018, the letter of February 26, 2018, or in connection with the Attorney General's investigation or this order, including, but not limited to, personal communications of Bitfinex and Tether and principals, employees, agents, contractors, investors, or associates on encrypted devices from ephemeral or other self-deleting applications, and it is further ordered that service of a copy of the order and the papers upon which it was granted on counsel for respondents on or before the 28th day of April 2019 be deemed sufficient service thereof. The end. Okay. Now what does it all mean? So far the picture that I've got it is like this. That the New York Attorney General's office has decided to get a little more aggressive in their investigations against Tether and Bitfinex. Now, whether or not Bitfinex and Tether or any other entities deserve this kind of scrutiny, I don't know. But I will tell you this, Letitia. There isn't a single fucking bank or other trading house operating in New York that it could withstand this level of scrutiny. There isn't a single fucking one. If you put Goldman Sachs to this kind of bullshit, they would fail. And all of their executives would be in fucking prison for all of the bullshit that they're responsible for. But you're going to look past all of that, and you're going to concentrate on Bitfinex, who's marshaling maybe a total of $3 billion in funds. See, this is, I made the same question again. I've come to the same question against CZ on Binance. Is, he got his hackles up about BSV, right? When there's not really any sign of fraudulent activity on the part of BSV. On certain principles around BSV and associated with BSV, maybe. But nothing that impacts the coin or the performance of its network. And they're getting all up on them. They're going to delist them and all that other bullshit. But in the meantime, we've got Tether. An impossibility of economics. A ephemeral note that's supposedly associated at a one-to-one basis with a volume of US dollars. This is not possible. And I've said this multiple times on this show, but you cannot, I don't give a fuck how you do it, you cannot peg a cryptocurrency to a fiat currency. You can't do it. You can say that you're doing it, you can manipulate the market to where it looks like you're doing it, but you can't fucking do it. You will get wrecked. Period. Unless you are directly manipulating shit to where you're always winning, you are going to get fucking wrecked. Period. And even if you do manage to work out some sort of manipulation scheme, people are going to be watching it. And they are going to learn to game your ass. And they are going to fucking wreck you. That's all there is to it. You can't fucking do it. So now, let's take a real step back though. See, this bullshit has basically indicated the NYDFS and the government of New York, in my opinion anyway, as a criminal cabal. They selectively wave around their fucking sword at who they're going to cut down, and they always seem to hit people that aren't Goldman Sachs or these huge fucking banks that have been in existence for hundreds of years and all that. They mysteriously, those people never get cut down. No. They have to really fuck up. They have to impact tens of millions of Americans directly. And even then, nobody goes to fucking prison. No. Some fees here and there. Some people get censured and can't trade anymore. But they're analysts for other companies now. They're advisors for other companies now. Showing people all the neat little tricks that they use to keep Goldman Sachs from getting that sword whacking their head off. But no. Ifinex is making a buck or two, and they're not paying the NYDFS to do it. So we better fucking go chase after them. Let's get serious on this point, though. The only reason why, Bitfinex would have existed anyway, but the only reason why Tether exists is because of all of the difficulties that banks have put people through in trying to secure a bank account and manage a legitimate bank account to be able to base their exchange volume off of it. And securing funds, legitimate means of funds, is exceedingly difficult. And that's not because of any fraudulent claim or fraudulent activity on the part of the people seeking it. They could have wonderful credit records. If they're not one of the big New York cabal people, and they're not related to them, or they're not a friend of them, they're not doing favors for them, or whatever. If that relationship isn't there, they get cut down. They don't get their fucking bit license. I mean, Bitfinex, or I'm not Bitfinex, Bittrex, one of the most legitimate cryptocurrency exchanges out there, had the NYDFS's hand crammed up their ass for 4 fucking years, and they were still denied a fucking bit license. Meanwhile, we've got all kinds of fraudulent activity going on Wall Street, but we don't really hear about that kind of shit. We don't hear about Wells Fargo being taken down or being addressed by the New York Attorney General's office. and issued subpoenas. And when we do, it's something that they've been doing for like 10 fucking years or some shit like that. You know, it's this uneven application of their power at the NYDFS and the Attorney General's office. It's just unreasonable. It is wholly unreasonable. And let me go a step further here. The people that trade on exchanges and use tethers, most of us know enough to suspect tether. And that's not something that the New York Attorney General's office did or anything like that. No, we watch the shit. And we even try to make money by watching it. And we don't need your help. You aren't helping anything. If anything, you're making it worse for us. Because the more pressure you put on these guys, the more we're going to have to revert to even more scammy pools of fucking liquidity to back our U.S. withdrawals and deposits. And that's not going to be good for anybody. You know, this is basically, in my opinion, they're fiddling around with shit that they really don't belong in. And they're trying to do it because they're people. They're the people that they serve, not you and me. They want in on our shit. And you know, and they use really funny language too, and it doesn't mean anything that people think they mean by it. When they say things like regulatory clarity, they're not talking about like making the law clearer for you to understand so you can actually comply to it. No. What they're talking about is kicking you the fuck out. See, regulatory clarity means kicking everybody out who is not already a licensed member of the club. If you're not a licensed member of the club, you can go fuck off. And that's what they mean by regulatory clarity. Well, I got news for you. I just saw something today on my Twitter feed, and I sent it to the SEC. I said it was a picture of two kids, and both of them were under 12 years of age, and it was something like these are the two youngest hackers at this hackathon, and there were two Bitcoin OGs at this meeting, right? Okay, I sent that to the SEC, and I said, by the time these kids graduate high school, they're going to be fucking Jerome Powell. I didn't add fucking in there because I was talking to the SEC, but I said they'll be Jerome Powell. They'll be the head of the Federal Reserve. And they're not going to be asking you for regulatory clarity or permission to do what they're doing. But they're going to be wielding that fucking blade of digital finance, that Vorpal blade of digital finance that Satoshi Nakamoto handed off to everybody, and there isn't going to be anybody that can stop them. It's how we use that power. That will be the important thing. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music, and I'm feeling the need for some sixth. But where to go? I usually play the same songs by them, and it's only because they do this fucking spoken word things, and most of the time I'm just listening to the full album, so I'm not really paying attention to the titles of the songs unless I really, 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 really like them. And so here it is, playing Street Bloom here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with State of Rebellion. As far as which direction we're going to go now, I've got a couple. The first is, I'm trying to, like, hammer it down. I mean, because I can't really tell exactly how many pages this damn thing is. It looks like several. But it's got a lot of pictures, and so we may go there. But anyway, I do have other background, though. And I think that this is the kind of information that we should kind of back everything up with. You know, because we've heard the NYAG's perspective on things. And basically, they want to know the color of everybody at Tether and Bitfinex's underwear for the last, 2 or 3 years. And I think it's kind of an unreasonable request. I know that's kind of a superfluous one. I mean, not superfluous, but it's kind of funny and whatnot. But that's the depth of information that they're asking of Bitfinex and Tether, and so honestly, I expect both entities to probably shine on New York. As far as how that's going to impact Tether and Bitfinex, Bitfinex is already kicked out of New York. Because, of course, they probably can't get a bit license. I would be really, really, really surprised if Bitfinex ever gets a bit license. If Bittrex can't get a fucking bit license, Bitfinex cannot get a fucking bit license. Okay, they're just not as they don't have the same what's that word, integrity or same reputation. You know, there have been a lot more questions about Bitfinex than Bittrex. So, you know, like I said, and that's just on our side. We're the consumers, the traders, and whatnot. And I'm sure most of you would put more trust in Bittrex than you would Bitfinex any day of the week. But that's from your experience. That's not from something that the NYAG or anybody else had said about it. Anyway, I wanted to continue on into this other stuff. And I actually had to translate this page from Spanish to English, but this is a little bit further background. And so here it is. This one is on CoinDesk.com. Bitfinex needs, quote, a few weeks to unfreeze funds, CFO tells shareholder. And this is by Nicholas D., authored April 26, 2019. 21:35 UTC, so yes, penis. Two Bitfinex shareholders said they were unconcerned by the New York Attorney General's allegations that the cryptocurrency exchange lost $850 million of client and corporate funds. Zhao Dong, a Bitfinex shareholder who has tried to reassure the crypto community that the exchange is solvent and operational numerous times in the past, told CoinDesk Friday that he remains, quote, supportive of both Bitfinex and Tether, the stablecoin issuer with overlapping management and ownership. Giancarlo Davicini, Bitfinex's chief financial officer, personally assured Zhao that this is a temporary situation. Zhao said indeed. Davicini told him that the exchange, quote, needs a few weeks and the funds will be unfrozen. Quote, the funds were in several banks in Poland, the US, and Portugal, so I'm not sure, but that's what I heard, Zhao said. Wait a minute. Zhao, okay, so I guess that's based on the CFO's, I don't know. Anyway, continuing. While the New York Attorney General's office says the missing funds belong to both Bitfinex's corporate accounts as well as customers, Zhao said the funds belonged entirely to customers, saying, quote, what the information I have right now is there are no losses, but the funds belong to clients. If the U.S. government seized the funds, they should know the funds don't belong to Bitfinex or Tether. It's the client's money. Quote, I trust them. Zhao spoke a day after the New York Attorney General revealed a court order asking the exchange to preserve and turn over all documentation about the matter, as well as documents outlining how Bitfinex borrowed funds from its sister firm Tether. Both are operated by Ifinex. According to the NYAG's investigative findings, Bitfinex could not access $850 million held by the Panama-based crypto capital and had borrowed $700 million from Tether's reserves to cover up the shortfall. The news sparked a sell-off in the broader crypto market and a significant shift to alternative stablecoins over the next several hours, indicating trader concern about the two long controversial companies. However, When asked if he was concerned about the allegations that Bitfinex hid the loss of $800 million, Zhao said he was not. He cited events from his 6 years trading on the exchange as the reason for his confidence. Quote, "They did very well after previous calamities, so I trust them," Zhao said, referring to the hack in 2016 and the freezing of funds by Wells Fargo in 2017. Tether versus banking. Zhao also argued that Tether's model is safer than fractional reserve banking. Quote, "Tell me which bank has 100% reserved. Not even Tether is fully reserved, but it's much, much better than other banks," he said. And you know what? I noticed there's... Oh, okay, that's just a really long tail on one of the songs. I thought maybe my program had cheesed out on me, and it may actually have. Nope, hasn't. Cool. Continuing. Zhao also argued that Tether's model is safer than reserve banking. Yeah, maybe. Quote, "Tell me which bank is 100% reserved. Not even Tether is fully reserved, but it's much, much better than other banks," he said. Most banks only have 2 to 3% of reserves. For Tether, even the $800 million that is lost, even that is not all of their funds. They have 70% reserved. Pressed on the amount Tether has in reserves, Zhao added that he believes the company is 100% backed. Quote, "But even if they are not, they are much better than the banks." It should be noted that banks in the U.S. have Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation insurance covering customer funds up to $250,000 each in the event of a bank failure. More than 140 other countries have similar arrangements, according to the International Association of Deposit Insurers. Quote, "They're still here." Nor is Zhao alone. Tianjie Jia, another shareholder, told CoinDesk Friday that he maintains his support for Bitfinex and that he's heard from all of its executives since the news broke late Thursday. Quote, "They're still there. They're still trying to solve the problems," he said. CoinDesk has not received responses to multiple requests for comment from Bitfinex and Tether on the situation. That being said, Tian said he did not have any information that Bitfinex has not already made public, such as Bitfinex's claim in a statement Thursday night that it plans to recover the funds. Unlike Zhao, Tian did not have a timeline for this recovery process. Tian concluded, quote, "Because it is customers' money, it is not stolen cryptocurrency. It's fiat. It can't be stolen. It's only frozen by the regulators, and Bitfinex is trying to get it back by approaching Panama and the U.S. Attorney General. They have been communicating all along." So it seems things are kind of unfolding. Basically, in my opinion, from this, okay, the NYAG has probably already done some other actions. As in, they probably know about the nature of the funds because in the U.S. held bank accounts, they seized the asset. They just stole the fucking money. That's, in my opinion, that would in itself would be a fraudulent, or not a fraudulent act, but a criminal act. You know, where they just say, "Oh, we don't want you to do business, so we're just going to take your fucking money. Thank you. Have a nice day." I mean, that's what it looks like to me, but that's just one end of it. Let's get a little bit deeper. And like I said, this one is translated from Spanish to English, and it's on diariobitcoin.com. Bitfinex registers withdrawals totaling 17,000 Bitcoin after accusations by the New York prosecutor's office. And this is published April 21st, 26th, my apologies, 2019, Andreas David Martinez. So yes, penis. Critics claim that withdrawals are associated with the fear on part of the users that their funds will be withheld in case they initiate legal proceedings against the exchange. However, the volume of withdrawals generated many doubts among people who follow the case very closely. The Twitter account tracking irregular transactions with cryptocurrencies, Whale Alert, reported today that an estimated 7.5 is that 7.5 or 75? Oh no, that's $75 million in crypto balances left the Bitfinex exchange to an unknown address. According to the information published by Whale Alert, Bitfinex extracted a total of 13,377 Bitcoin, approximately 70,350,000, and another 6 transactions with ETH balances, which added a total of $75 million extracted in the last 24 hours. The conflicts with Bitfinex. The withdrawals occur in the midst of the problems faced by Bitfinex's parent company, Ifinex, which is currently facing a legal battle over funds destined for an external payment processor in 2018. The exchange originally handled its withdrawal orders through the exchange Crypto Capital Corp., but it was unable to distribute a substantial amount of capital and was forced to use some of its reserves in US dollars to support its stablecoin Tether for cover the existing gap. As a result of these actions, the General Prosecutor's Office of New York filed an accusation in which it signaled the exchange to use funds from other sources, for which reason it requested the partial cessation of operations until the case is clarified. This news triggered a wave of withdrawals from Bitfinex, which is why many clients withdrew their funds from the platform for fear that they would be held in case of formally starting a legal dispute. However, the transactions recently made from the cold portfolio of the platform could suggest that the exchange is trying to balance its accounts so as to not generate significant imbalances in its balance sheets. Bitfinex and Tether. In the past, Bitfinex subsequently published an article in a blog denouncing attempts by the Attorney General to make unjustified pressure in the Crypto Capital case. In this regard, the representatives of the exchange indicated, quote, information was obtained that the funds of Crypto Capital were not lost, but in fact were confiscated and safeguarded. And they added, quote, we are actively working to exercise our rights and resources to ensure that these funds are released. Unfortunately, the New York Attorney General's office seems to be trying to undermine those efforts to the detriment of our clients. The article briefly addresses some aspects related to the financial stability of both the exchange and Tether, rescuing some official comments issued in response to the insolvency allegations filed late last year. Quote, both Bitfinex and Tether are financially strong, full stop. Quote, at this time, the Tether cryptocurrency records historical highs similar to those seen for the last time around the same time for which it had problems in the past. The price of Bitcoin in October was $6,250 which led some to consider that the cryptocurrency has room to improve with respect to current levels. In this regard, Bitfinex commented, quote, both Bitfinex and Tether have pledged to fight against this overreaching by the New York Attorney General's office against good companies and big supporters of law enforcement. Yeah, that's adding a little more clarity, I would say. You know, there's been several actions by the the offices of the state of New York and the New York Federal, the NYDFS, New York Department of Financial Services, and also on the part of the New York Fed. And all of them have been targeting cryptocurrencies from the fiat currency side. Anywhere where there's an interface, they try and stamp it out. Except, of course, for their few select participants that they really, really like. The 10 or 11 people that they've actually issued a bit license to. And honestly, I find their oppressiveness in the banking sector towards crypto to be offensive. For the most part, they are not acting on actual complaints of clients or persons. They're acting on their own suspicions and their own initiatives. They're forcibly seizing funds, and then they throw a fit when you use other people's funds. What the fuck do you want, man? I mean, really, it's like, and they do it. They've done it several times now. They've interfered with Wells Fargo. They've interfered with other exchanges, both in Hong Kong and elsewhere, with regard to Bitfinex and Tether. And so it's like, it's one of these things where there are certain entities, I feel anyway, that are using the offices of the NYDFS and the New York Attorney General's office to wrongfully go after these entities. I mean, really, that seems to me to be what's going on here, is that one of the entities, either Bitfinex or Tether, actually had liquid capital that they could move around and support Tether and Bitfinex, or whichever the entity was. Because both of the entities were owned by one entity, it's just shifting funds from one place to another. But see, the thing is this, that the NYDFS or New York Attorney General's office initiated this whole thing. They stole fucking money, and then to try and put pressure on either Bitfinex or Tether, they stole money, and then one of those entities went to one of their financiers and said, "Yo, these motherfuckers stole our money. They created a big ass hole in the balance sheet. Can you temporarily fill this until we can kind of make the money back or get the money unseized?" And they said, "Yeah, sure. We'll keep you running." And the NYAG is throwing a fit about that. Well, I can't feel bad about it. I can't feel bad about... And I really feel weird defending Bitfinex and or Tether, because I've always asserted that you cannot do a stable coin. I mean, hats off to them for trying. But as far as I'm concerned, that's the point where we're losing a lot of our volatility. I think that if there's been any point in the whole cycle here where we have lost actual value, I would say it's been in stable coins, because I don't believe a single one of them are solvent. I think Tether is more likely to have some cash reserves, and like the point that Zhao made, they probably have much more in reserves, in actual liquid capital reserves, than any fucking bank out on Wall Street or in the state of New York. This is true. It's sad. It is absolutely fucking terrifying if you think about it. But Bitfinex and Tether are more solvent than any bank in the state of New York, including the Federal Reserve of the state of New York. Yeah, I said it. I believe it too. But it's because they've been operating on the principle of fractional reserve for the last, close to a century now. And there's no fucking possible way that they could ever possibly be good for all of their outstanding obligations. They do not have the liquid reserves for it. And I don't give a fuck if they do have FDIC insurance for every bit of it. If they were to all go to the FDIC tomorrow and say, look, dude, we're insolvent. We need to insure all of our clients' accounts. That they would cause a run on the fucking FDIC. And the FDIC would go bankrupt. I mean, they wouldn't be the first insurance company to go bankrupt either. Several insurance companies went bankrupt on fucking 9/11. Several other insurance companies went bankrupt during I think it was the 80s or 90s when there was some massive floods in the Midwest. They built on a fucking 100-year floodplain. They built all these farms on it. There was a 100-year flood, and everybody lost fucking crops. And insurance companies went bankrupt trying to cover all of their obligations. So again, if there were any major issue, like some major bank got hacked or got their funds ganked by the fucking NYAG, there is no way that they would be able to fulfill on their obligations. Whereas Bitfinex and Tether are both circulating, both running. This $800 million divot in their liquid capital did not stop them. I'm telling you right now, if they did the same thing to Goldman Sachs would be going to the fucking FDIC going, yeah, we're going to need you to cover 300 million clients' accounts because the NYAG just ganked 800 million and we had that leveraged 10,000 fucking times, and so they basically frozen about $75 trillion worth of assets and financial activity. Can you please cover our clients for your $250,000 limit? Yeah. I mean, really, that's about what would happen. But everybody looks at this shit going on with Tether and Bitfinex, and they're sneering. And I'll admit, I sneered and I said I told you so and all that. Yeah, whatever. But as sad as it is to say, just out of absolute necessity, because we do have accountability in crypto, Bitfinex and Tether are more fucking solvent than the state of New York. Period. State of New York. I'm not just saying fucking NYDFS or the banks and all the Wall Street. They're more solvent than Wall Street. And it's due to utter necessity and utter accountability that they are. And I'm perfectly willing to say that. I don't give a fuck if they don't have one-to-one backing with the tethers out there in circulation. The fact of the matter is they are more capable of fulfilling on a request to redeem those tethers for US dollars than any bank in fucking New York. Take that one to the bank. Literally. and it's really sad. And so, this next article that I'm going to read, it's just an attempt to get another perspective. I don't know what it's going to add to what I've been saying, but let's check it out. This is on crypto.bi. Tether is backed by Bitcoin converted to US, not by actual US dollars. That could very well be. A lot of controversy surrounding the Tether cryptocurrency seems to focus on whether it is fully backed by US dollar funds or not. Several relevant questions have been posed in this respect, such as why investors would keep $2.5 billion US dollars as of May 2018 in cash deposited as reserves for Tether with little or no return when there are much better and safer investments available. A $2.5 billion fund manager would be a guest of honor at any bank in New York or London, and they'd surely be offered top-notch exclusive investment opportunities, unless of course they were competitors for Goldman Sachs. Why then keep all this cash locked up somewhere just to back cryptocurrency. Our theory is that this simply isn't the case. We believe that Tether is backed by Bitcoin value converted to US by the current, and it's actually spelled U with $sign next to it instead of USDs, by the current exchange rate, not by actual US dollars. And in this article, we'll present evidence to back up this hypothesis. Our thesis: the value of Tether is backed by Bitcoin cold wallets, not US dollar deposits. Honestly, I would feel safer if they were. Continuing, our theory is based on the assumption that Bitfinex is behind Tether. If this is indeed the case, then our thesis is that the Bitcoin funds under Bitfinex's control regulate the value of Tether against the US dollar. The logical reasoning for this is the price of Tether is not directly derived from US dollar as it may seem at first sight, and as is assumed by most cryptocurrency investors, but is instead, it is based on the current dollar price of Bitcoins, which is then converted to US dollars. There is one level of indirection between the US dollar and Tether, and it is Bitcoin. The indirection may seem harmless, but in our opinion, it is the key to the entire Tether cash reserves debacle. Similarly to what we argued in our article about the fake market cap, there is no direct and high volume trade between Tether and actual dollars. Traders are not buying and selling billions of US in USDT. There aren't billions of US cash being traded for Tether anywhere in the world at this time. Only Bitcoin is actively traded against the US dollar in significant amounts at the time of this writing, June 2018, which continues to, and so this is pretty old, but it gives us a little bit of, let's get back into it, which continues to justify our argument that the US dollar market cap can only accurately be computed for Bitcoin and cryptos which are directly traded for US dollars in significant amounts. All other USD valuations are mere estimates and shouldn't be computed as US dollar market caps, but only as Satoshi units. This applies to complementary cryptocurrencies such as Tether, which brings us to the point of this article, the Bitfinex connection. Although the Bitfinex-Tether connection may seem obvious and is taken for granted by most cryptocurrency investors, in order to develop a correct thesis, we'd like to try and establish this fact beyond reasonable doubt before proceeding with our augmentation. If you are already 100% convinced that Bitfinex is behind Tether, then you may safely skip this section. For the thesis presented here to make any sense, it is necessary that a multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin fund exist, and it must be under the same management as Tether. If it can be proven that Bitfinex is indeed behind Tether, then we can argue in favor of our thesis that Tether is backed by Bitcoin. What evidence do we have that Bitfinex and Tether are associated? Number 1, U.S. financial regulators believe so, or they wouldn't subpoena both together. Number 2, financial media calls Bitfinex and Tether sister companies. Number 3, Reddit sleuths have found strong human resources coincidences between Tether and Bitfinex. Number 4, high volume of Tether trade has been detected from Bitfinex wallets. And so yeah, this, as far as I'm concerned, this isn't really going to be adding anything really constructive to the conversation. What it does give us is a little bit of history as far as their activity in the past. But we've already established that they are sister entities, as in assets or subsidiaries of Ifinex. So, this whole argument, it's just a matter then of determining whether Ifinex holds $2.5 billion in US dollar value worth of Bitcoin, or US dollars. And I would argue that they probably do have a significant volume of actual US dollars backing them. And simple proof of that is the fact that they were able to get $700 million or $850 million, or however much the actual amount was. I've seen claims of both. But the point being that they were able to cover it. And again, if you were to do the same thing to Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, anybody that is recognized by the NYDFS as a quote-unquote bank, if you were to seize $850 million of their dollars, they would collapse. And as a matter of fact, there's precedent for this. There is precedent for this. Remember the financial collapse of 2008, 2009 that actually caused the creation of Bitcoin? Remember that? 2008? 2007 through 2009 was the actual collapsing time and the period of the most intensity of that debacle. Okay, if you're unfamiliar with what actually happened, I actually saw some of this, and so I know it actually happened. If you were to watch The Big Short, it is fucking excellent work, and it is absolutely true. If you watch it, it's absolutely true. I watched a lot of the stuff that was covered on C-SPAN that they include snippets of. I watched that shit on C-SPAN when it was happening. Okay, so that's how I know it was happening. But the point being is, if you look back to that, you can kind of see where the big issue is. You know, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But yeah, Wacovia. That's what it was. Wacovia. Look up fucking Wacovia. And their association to the whole fucking debacle. Okay, because what really happened there, and you can investigate this. You can look it up on Google. It's there. Wacovia was laundering money for the SInaloa Cartel. Okay, they had about $400 million on their books that they were using as collateral for housing loans. That's what brought them into the whole question, is they were getting their fucking liquidity from another source other than the fucking New York Federal Reserve or the Federal Reserve of their state or whatever. And so, you know, they're drawing red flags, you know, basically, because the liquidity isn't coming from New York. New York can't account for where Wacovia is getting $400 million, so they seized, or they didn't seize the funds. They notified Wacovia that they were going to audit them. And then what happened is the SInaloa Cartel withdrew $400 million. Well, there were several obligations that were intrinsically dependent on the existence of that $400 million. And so Wacovia collapsed. And pretty much the entire derivative market that was built on top of that collapsed too. And that's what precipitated the whole collapse of 2008, 2009. So take that in your fucking brain. Twice what precipitated perhaps the greatest financial collapse that we've known about, that caused the creation of Bitcoin. Twice that volume was seized from Tether or Bitfinex or whatever, Ifinex, by the NYAG, and they're still kicking. The crypto market is not on fire. Take that in your fucking brain. That should tell you something about the resilience of both Bitfinex, Tether, and the crypto market as a whole. We are that much more accountable than traditional finance, that two bullets, the size of which created the last financial crisis, did not take down Bitfinex or Tether. Thank you very much. Crypto, hats off. let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. I'm feeling a little agitated. And so here it is. Cold Chamber, Loco, here on Coin Metal. And that was Cavalera Conspiracy with Terrorize. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I'd like y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else can do it for you. Not even the NYAG. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I haven't picked anything out. As normal, I kind of like to hold that off until the very last moment. But I had picked out a song, and I just hadn't had an opportunity to play it. And so here it is. Last Dance, Meshuggah, Concatenation. Last Dance here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and you all have an excellent weekend.